Hey everyone! Alright, so this is going to be my labor and delivery video. Before I start, I just want to take this moment to officially apologize for how long I've been absent. It's not for any reason, everything is fine, I'm fine, Euan is fine, Jason's fine, etc. But I literally just have not been able to find the time to make any kind of videos. If you haven't seen it, I did put up the footage from the actual birth of Euan, which I'll link actually at the end of this video. And it took me like days to edit that together, and there wasn't that much editing involved. I've just been very busy, and I don't know how other people make videos with a newborn. I guess I'm just not as efficient and organized as some of you other ladies, but nonetheless, this is it. I'm finally doing it. I wanted to wait till my hair was done and I had makeup on, but if I wait till that happens, then I'll never do it, so here we go. I don't have any notes, and so this is probably going to be all over the place, but this is what happened leading up to that video that I posted of Euan's birth, what happened a couple of days before, and leading up to. So basically at my 40-week appointment, I went to my regular doctor's appointment. As you know, I had been refusing to have the sweep done just because I didn't want to go into labor early. Jason had some issues with when he could take time off of work. So the later I went into labor, the better. But I also didn't want to be induced, so it's kind of a fine line of when to have the sweep. So basically at my 40-week appointment, which was 40 weeks and 3 days, I did have the sweep, and what was going to happen is she was going to give me the sweep, and then that was on a Tuesday, and if I hadn't gone into labor by that coming Monday, then I was going to be induced. So I, at that point, wanted to do things that would induce labor naturally. So she gave me the sweep, and a lot of you, I had asked on Facebook, what is the sweep going to be like? Is it going to be painful? Is it, what should I expect? And, a lot of you said it's just kind of like a pap test. It's more uncomfortable than it is painful, etc., etc. A lot of comments like that. For me, it was extremely painful. It felt like she was in elbow deep, and yeah, it was extremely painful, and I was not expecting it. The nurse was there at the same time that I was doing the sweep, and afterwards she was like, I felt like I was getting the sweep done watching your face as she was doing it. That being said, she did have a really good sweep. I did bleed immediately afterwards, and she said she really got a really good separation. So that was really awesome, and I was like, yes! I'm freaking out a little bit because I'm petrified to go into labor, and but it's an inevitability, so I'm just like, alright, let's get this done. So that was on Tuesday. After that, the few hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours after the appointment, I was cramping, and they did sort of have a little bit of a pattern to them, every 10 minutes or so I would have a cramp. It was kind of like a menstrual cramp, kind of like a Braxton Hicks combined, but nothing that, I had to stop what I was doing because it was painful. It was more just like, oh, I feel that kind of thing. So that happened, and then it stopped completely, and Wednesday I hardly experienced anything. Wednesday, I think, was the 1st. August 1st, yes. So also, my cousin came into town, she's a doula, and so she's like, alright, let's get you walking and let's get you doing some stuff to really try and start labor. So that's basically what I did. We started walking everywhere. We were walking around my neighborhood, and then it started to rain, so we went to the mall, and we walked the mall for a few hours. And while I was walking, I did start to have more of these cramps, Braxton Hicks feelings. Painful isn't really the right word to describe them. They were uncomfortable. The tightening sensation was uncomfortable more than the actual period cramp feeling. And while I was walking, they were coming more frequent, every 3 minutes, every 5 minutes, and they were lasting anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half. So we're like, yes, this is great. But as soon as I would stop walking, they would stop. So that happened. We started walking like Wednesday evening, got a good night's sleep Wednesday night, and then we walked all day Thursday, and then when we stopped walking, they stopped again. So she was just like, all right, I'm gonna run out to the store and I'll be right back. This is my doula was saying this to me, and she's like, she comes back and she has the raspberry leaf tea. And she's like, I want you to drink this. It says 3 to 4 times daily. I want you to have it right now, and then I want you to have it as soon as you wake up in the morning. This is about 9 o'clock in the evening that she's like, have a cup, and then as soon as you wake up, have a cup, and then a couple hours later, have a cup, and I want you to do this because I really don't want you to be induced on Monday. I want you to start naturally. So I'm like, great. So I have the tea, and also just so you know, I hate tea. It was gross. I had to put like 3 things of sugar in it just to like get it down. It was gross. Not a fan of tea, not a fan of coffee is okay, but I'd really rather not. I don't really like hot drinks, but that's besides the point. I was willing to do whatever at that point to get things started naturally. So I had the tea, and then she left, and at about 11:30 or 12 I went to bed. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with some pretty bad cramps. And they were coming every 3 to 5 minutes, and they were with the Braxton Hicks feeling, but the menstrual cramp feeling that went along with it was a lot stronger and definitely more painful. I had to breathe through it, and I was like kind of excited because I was like, things are happening. So I sort of did that on my own for about an hour, and at about 4 o'clock I woke my husband up to let him know, okay, things are starting to happen. At that point they were starting to get more painful. I had to like lean over, like I have just a big body pillow that I folded over in half, and I put it on top of the bed and I'd lean over it. I'd have to do that during a contraction to breathe through it. So I'm like, all right, this is it. And since they were coming frequently enough, they were definitely within the 3 to 5 minute time zone that they recommend that you wait until they're that close together before you go to the hospital. I was like, oh my god, they're already 3 to 5 minutes apart. I should definitely get to the hospital. And also, I forgot to mention this, when I had the sweep done at my doctor's appointment on the Tuesday, she also checked my cervix. Obviously she was in there anyways, and I was about a forced 2 centimeters. So yeah, we'll just say 2 centimeters for argument's sake. So yeah, so this is now Friday morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and which is the 3rd, and I'm thinking, this is pretty painful. I should really get to the hospital before it gets any more painful, because I'm really afraid of what is going to happen, about the pain. And at this point I'm thinking I'm going to have an epidural because I'm just too freaked out about how painful it's going to be. I don't know what to expect, and so I'm thinking I want to get to the hospital before they tell me it's too late to get an epidural and then I'm shit out of luck. So, but I also don't want to go to the hospital and then they tell me, oh, you're not far enough along, go home. I really didn't want to be sent home. So we waited it out till about 7:30 or so, and then I'm like, okay, this is getting really painful. I need to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital. We call first and they say, yeah, there's nobody here, come on in. So I go in, and like when they say nobody's here, there was no other people in labor, so anyways, they told me to come in. hooked me up to some monitors, and sure enough, I'm contracting every 3 to 5 minutes, so they go ahead and admit me, and I'm like, yay, so excited, very, very afraid of what's about to happen, and, but nonetheless, yes, I'm admitted, I'm in the hospital, this is gonna happen, yes. So I get an IV put in because it's protocol. I have to have an IV because I have to, at the very least, after the birth, have to have oxytocin to help with the bleeding, to help me stop bleeding till my uterus contract back. So they put that in right away so that it's sort of just done. And they bring the gas into my room if I want to use that. I didn't use it because I was afraid, to be quite honest, of it, how it was going to make me feel. I was afraid it was going to make me feel sick, so I didn't have any of the gas. And I just got into my Johnny shirt and walked the halls. I did that for a couple hours, probably about 10 o'clock that they were starting to get quite painful, and so I requested to be checked, and I wanted the epidural. So I was checked, and I was only at a 2 still. I hadn't dilated anything from the Tuesday before when I had my sweep at my doctor's appointment. So I was super disappointed, but they allowed me to get the epidural anyways, which I was surprised because I was under the impression that they don't like you to have the epidural until you are a little bit more dilated. Because it can slow down the labor, but nonetheless they gave it to me. I was thrilled because I was like thinking that the pain I was in was pretty intense and I couldn't imagine it getting any more painful than it was. So I wanted the epidural, so they hooked me up, and yeah, I was hooked up to the epidural and it worked wonderfully and I was able to rest. The only thing that was the downside was it pretty well completely stalled my labor. My contractions were a lot further apart and they weren't as intense when I did have them. So what did I end up getting? I was given oxytocin or pitocin, you know, same thing essentially, to help with my contractions. So yeah, that kind of sucked because I really didn't want to have any, but nonetheless it was fine. I had the epidural, I couldn't feel how intense the contractions were getting, so I was like, great. So basically I was hooked up to pitocin for probably, see, time is like, I don't really know, like time frames. I know when he was born, but like the difference in between, it's hard to tell exactly what time things happened. So I labored for some unknown amount of time, probably like 4 or 5 hours, and I wasn't feeling anything because I had the epidural, like I said, but I was contracting, and I was starting to contract more and more intensely because of the medication that I was given. So that was great. So basically I slept during those hours because I couldn't feel anything and I was tired. I was up, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I got some good rest when I had the epidural, so that was lovely. But then around, probably around 5 o'clock in the evening, approximately, once again, oh, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh yes, my epidural started to wear off. How I started to feel it was they had to catheterize me, just like for a second to like drain my bladder, and I felt that, and I was like, ooh, I can feel that, and the previous time they'd done it, I didn't feel it, so I was like, okay, that's kind of scary. And then sure enough, within like 20 minutes, I could completely feel all of the contractions I was having, and since I had essentially the induction, the medicine given to me, you know, they were quite intense and quite close together. Just one sec, the phone rang. I'm going to see if it's for me. No? Okay. Sorry about that. So yes, at this point I can feel everything and I'm freaking out because, oh my god, I cannot do this naturally. It is the most pain I've ever felt in my life. I thought earlier, I can't imagine the pain getting any worse. Oh my god, yes it did. Definitely got worse. So painful. Can't even describe how painful it was. So I'm trying to breathe through it. I'm still not wanting the gas because I'm still afraid of the gas. So basically they get the anesthesiologist back and he tops me up. And basically he tells me that the top up will last only a couple of hours. And so I'm like, well, can I get topped up again if I don't have the baby within 2 hours? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, just, you know, give a call. And so I'm like, whew. Because I'm thinking, I cannot deliver this baby naturally. This is ridiculous. Like, the feeling of pain, I can't compare it to anything. People said, you know, it's like menstrual cramps. It's not really like menstrual cramps at all. I can't explain it. It's painful. Not to freak anybody out, but I mean, it was painful for me. A lot of people, you know, have a higher tolerance of pain. I apparently have no tolerance of pain, so that's fine. So I get the top off for my epidural, and again, I'm numb. So I'm like, whew, thank goodness. But it does slow my contractions down again, so they have to top up my oxytocin, pitocin, to make me start contracting more again. So that lasts for 2 hours, and pretty well at the 2-hour mark on the nose, it wears off. So that's at about 7 o'clock. 7:30, my epidural starts to wear off again. So we call the anesthesiologist to get him to come back to top me off. And there's only one anesthesiologist in this hospital, by the way. And he was in the OR and unable to come up. He said he would come up as soon as he was out of the OR, but at that moment he couldn't. So I'm freaking out. I am freaking out. There's absolutely no way that I can do this naturally. No way whatsoever. It's just unbearable. So I beg and plead with my nurses for what seemed like forever for them to get him up, and they try to explain to me that he can't come up to top me off because whatever. So finally I allow myself to try the gas. And I really didn't mind it at all. Once I took it off of my face, 1 or 2 breaths later, the feeling that you get from the gas would go away. So if I ever felt a little bit too lightheaded or a bit whatever, I literally just took it away from my mouth and I was fine again. It didn't make me sick like I thought it might, so it was really a blessing. And I'm really regretting not having the gas earlier because I probably would have postponed the epidural till later, and I wouldn't have had these issues with my epidural wearing off. So nonetheless, I used the gas, and it really helped for probably about an hour. So probably from about 7:30 till about 8:30 or even 9. The gas really helped, but I mean, that being said, the gas, it took away the edge, but I still felt it. And at this point, we might as well say that I didn't have an epidural because I am feeling everything. There is absolutely no numbness whatsoever. It's completely wore off. So yeah, it definitely, the gas took away the most intense part of the peak of the contraction, but I still felt it. I didn't think that I was high from it, but my husband begs to differ. He's like, you were out of it. He's like, your eyes were like this, and he's like, oh, you were definitely something, although I didn't necessarily feel it. But so then, just at, when we're starting to get, I'm going to say I'm in transition at this point, looking back. Oh, I didn't even tell you like how much I was dilated. When they checked me initially, I was 2 centimeters. They checked me again like 5 or 6 hours later, and I was only at like 3 or 4 centimeters. I was taking a really long time to dilate. But once the epidural wore off for the second time, I started to dilate a lot quicker, which kind of makes sense because when I had the epidural, it slowed down the contractions, and so when the epidural wore off, it kind of sped things up a bit. So I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. So anyway, I am feeling a lot of pressure at this point. And they're checking me and they're telling me that I'm only at 8.5, 9 centimeters. But I feel like an extreme need to push, and they're telling me not to push. And I'm like trying to explain to them, like through the mask that I'm holding on my face of the gas, that like it's not that easy not to push. Like it's just, it was more painful not to push than the actual contraction was, because it's almost like you're trying to clench, because the urge to push is so intense that you have to really like control not to. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, I guess. So yeah, they basically told me not to push for what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably more like 30 minutes or so of telling me not to push. They checked me again, and the last time they had checked me I was about an 8.5 to a 9, and then they checked me again and I just had a tiny little lip of cervix left. So they got the doctor down, and he checked me and he's just like, yeah, you got a tiny little lip, but we'll just give you one more contraction where you don't push, and then, you know, we'll start pushing. So I'm like thinking, oh my god, I'm feeling everything. This gas isn't working, and plus when you push they don't let you have the gas, or at least they didn't for me, and I'm gonna have to do this naturally. The anesthesiologist isn't out of the OR yet. Oh my god, what am I gonna do? So I'm freaking out, and Jason was amazing. He was so reassuring and really focused me the entire time. I was a little bit nervous because I didn't want him to see all this blood and see all this stuff going on and see me in pain, and then him, you know, get faint or lightheaded. I didn't know if that was something that that he would do. I don't know how well he handles these things because he's never really been in that situation of seeing blood and seeing stuff, and so I wasn't sure, but he was great. He was really focusing me. So yeah, basically I went that last 1.5 centimeters pretty quick, and I pushed for, I probably pushed for about 20 minutes, and then he was born. He was born at 9:52 p.m. I was in labor for about 19 hours, so that was a long time, and I birthed him, essentially I'm saying I birthed him naturally because my epidural was completely worn off. I really didn't think I was going to be able to as I was in it, because it was literally the most pain I've ever felt in my life, but I did, and I mean, I had no choice. It was happening whether I wanted it to or not, or whether I could or not. It just happened. But yeah, born at 9:52 p.m. And he was 8 pounds 11 ounces, so he was a big boy. And he was, you know, he was beautiful. I didn't get the delayed clamping of the cord like I wanted because they put him up onto my chest and he didn't really cry. So they had to cut the cord right away and take him over to be cleaned and whatever, suctioned. But as soon as Jason did cut the cord, as soon as he cut it and they started walking towards the bed, he started wailing. So it was pretty awesome. Yeah. They did delay putting in the eye drops for about 2 hours, which was really nice, so he was able to see me and Jason clearly without having like the goop in his eyes. At that point, you know, they don't really see too much. They see like right in front and they whatever, but he was wide-eyed and just absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, it was amazing. The afterbirth came out like really fast, like within 5 minutes, I would say. The placenta came out. I was nervous because, you know, people said that the placenta coming out hurts, not like the baby hurts, but you know, it still hurts. And so I was nervous about birthing that, but really it felt like a huge relief. It just was like, oh, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but yeah, it didn't hurt at all to come out. And it was like a really healthy looking placenta, and they showed it to me and I thought it was pretty cool. I think she said it weighed like, and I could be completely wrong about this because this is a blur, but I want to say it was like 4 pounds. Maybe it was 2 pounds. I can't remember. Anyway, I did not have an episiotomy, which was great because I really didn't want one, but I did tear. I didn't tear all the way from my vagina to my bottom. I didn't tear the whole way, but probably about 3/4 of the way, and so I did have to have some stitches. So that was fine. The stitches didn't bother me because actually before Euan came out, before he crowned, the doctor actually gave me a local anesthetic to help with the ring of fire, to help with that feeling. So I didn't actually feel any kind of burning sensation. I mean, I felt him coming out, but I didn't necessarily feel like the ring of fire, so I guess I'm thankful for that. So yeah, I was already frozen by the time I needed to have the stitches put in. I don't know how many stitches I had, but yes, I did have stitches. So that was fine, and they cleaned Euan up and they gave him back to me, and my mom was in the room with me and Jason was in the room, and then once I was all cleaned up and that, the grandparents came in, and the great-grandparents, well, one great-grandmother came in, and we introduced him to them, and everyone was beside themselves. And then I had some other family members there, some aunts and uncles, and then they came in to see him, and so it was a big meeting, and it was a lovely kind of birthday moment, birthday celebration, meeting him for the first time, and yeah, it was awesome. And they didn't stay for very long, so that, you know, Jason and I could be with him, just, you know, us. And but what happened was, when they left, anytime I would move, a big gush of blood would come out. So I mentioned it to the nurse, and so she checked me, and she's like, yeah, there's a little bit of blood there, you know. So they got the doctor back, and the doctor looked, and he's like, yeah, that's a little bit of blood. You probably got some clots, so I'm gonna have to get those out. And I'm like, okay. I was hoping, I don't know why, I guess this is my naivety, but I was hoping that he was gonna like massage the outside of my stomach to get the clots to come out. But no, yeah, he went right up, and actually he was elbow deep practically that time. Felt like my doctor, when she gave me the sweep, was elbow deep, but he, I'm pretty sure, was actually elbow deep when he did this. And he literally like scraped the inside of my uterus and like pulled out like handfuls of clots. I didn't actually see it, obviously, but my husband was there, my mom was there, and they were both said afterwards that they'd never seen so much blood, and it was literally, he was just like, you know, taking it all out. But if he hadn't have done that, he said that I probably would have had to have a transfusion because I would have lost so much blood. So I mean, I guess I'm thankful for it, but that hurt just as much as delivery. Oh my goodness, that really hurt. So any of you that had to have that, yeah. I wasn't expecting it to hurt that much because I'm like, I just delivered a baby, you know, this can't be anything, but yes it was. And then after that, you know, I got in the shower and was moved from the delivery room into like the room I was going to stay in. I had a semi-private room because while they told me that there was no laboring moms when I called in the morning, there was actually, by the end of the day, I think 7 or 8 women that had come in to have their babies, and so there was no private rooms. I had asked for a private, but only semi-private were available. So I was in with someone, and because I was in with someone, Jason wasn't allowed to spend the night. He had to go home, which totally made me like freak out, because I was like, I can't do this without you. But they actually took Euan for the night. I didn't want them to take him to the nursery. I wanted to have him, but they're like, you need to sleep, you've just been through an ordeal. And Jason was like, I really want you to send him to the nursery. They're going to take him back to you in a couple of hours so that you can feed him anyways, and just sleep, and I'll be back here before you know it. So I cried myself to sleep because I didn't want to be away from him, Euan or Jason. But yeah, and that was it. And I got out, so that was Friday the 3rd, and I left the hospital on Sunday the 5th. And yeah, so that's pretty much my labor and delivery story. I really can't think of any other details, and I've been talking for about 30 minutes now, so that is all I can think of. It was an ordeal. It was definitely the most pain I've ever felt in my life, and yeah, there's no way that you can prepare for that. If you haven't experienced it already, I think I'll be a little bit more prepared, obviously, for a second baby. And there's things that I would do differently. I would not get the epidural at 2 centimeters, no matter how much pain I was in. I would use the gas earlier to sort of prolong when I can get the epidural, so that hopefully it wouldn't run out on me. But yeah, people who say that it's like, you know, having, like that delivering a baby is like having a big poop, is what a lot of people say, you know. You can't practice for having a baby in any other way besides pooping. It's like having a big poop. It's not in any way like having a big poop. It is like pushing a baby out of your vagina is what it's like. There's no other way. There's nothing else you can compare it to. Obviously, it's so worth it in the end, but it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Or one of the hardest things I've ever done. But yeah, that's it for my labor and delivery story. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to try to edit this down a little bit because this is probably very long. But yeah, if you have any questions, if I forgot anything, if you just have any questions, you can definitely leave them below, and I will do my very best to answer them all. Or if you wanted to send me a private message, if you're not comfortable leaving a comment, you can do that too. But yeah, other than that, look out for some videos that I'm hopefully going to be filming right after I film this, hopefully, if Euan stays asleep. I have his update. He's almost 7 weeks now, so I have his update. I have my postpartum update, how I've been doing since delivery, breastfeeding, bottle feeding update, cloth diapering update. Yeah, so there's a lot of updates to come. So check out or look out for those. Hopefully I'll be able to have those up soon. Again, I thank you all for your patience in waiting for this update, and I really hope to be more on the ball with updating you on how we're all doing. But yeah, that's it for now, and I will be talking to you soon. Alright, bye.